This week in reading, we are going to be focusing on nonfiction books. Remember, nonfiction books are books that tell real, true facts. And we can learn information from the nonfiction books that we read. But a lot of nonfiction texts have certain features. These features help us understand what the author is trying to teach us a little bit better. If you look here, you can see all the different kinds of features that may be in a nonfiction text. Now, not every nonfiction book has all of these features, but as we read the nonfiction books this week, let's see if we can find any of these text features in the books that we are reading. So to start with today, I would like us to just do an overview of some of the nonfiction text features. First of all, you may find in most of the books a title page. This page is inside a book and it tells the title, the author, and the publisher. We find title pages also in our fiction stories, so this is something that you should be familiar with. Something else that you might find in a nonfiction book is something we've talked about in math. Do you remember what this is called? It's a chart. A chart gives us information. All right, now here's something else that you might find in a nonfiction book, a table of contents. The table of contents tells you what each chapter or section is about, and it tells you the page number that you can find that information on. The table of contents is in the beginning of the book, but the index is at the end of the book. The index is also a place you can go to find where to find the information you want to look for. For instance, if you wanted to just read about cats, you can see the word cat here in the index, and you can see that in this book, you can learn about cats on page 2, page 8, and page 87. So, if you want to know where to find the information you're looking for, go to the beginning for the table of contents or the end for the index. Now, this one is not about a book that we would read in a class, but this is about getting information from a nonfiction text online. Sometimes when you are reading a book online, they will have a hyperlink. See how these words are red? This is a hyperlink. If you click on these words, it will take you to another website where you can find more information. This cannot be done when you read a book in the classroom, where I'm holding the book or another teacher is holding the book. This can only be done online. Another thing that's only online are icons. We use icons all the time. We have icons on our eClass page to get us to our digital learning, to our Google Classroom, and sometimes you'll find icons in nonfiction text that will take you to more information. The next one is a glossary. Now, the glossary is also usually at the end of the book. And what it has is it has words. Now, these words will appear a lot of times in the text and they'll be bold. So that lets you know, oh, if you want to know more about this word, check out the glossary. All right, now when you're reading the nonfiction text, usually at the beginning of each section, you will find a heading. This heading is called All About Fish. So that lets you know what information you will be reading about. These are guide words, and these are in dictionaries, so we're not going to spend much time on here. But here's the words we were talking about before, those bold words. Sometimes they're bold, sometimes they'll look like this, italics, or sometimes they're a different color. These are words that are important in the text. And if you see a bold word, make sure to check the back to see if you can also find it in the glossary. Now, these are in almost every nonfiction book. They are photographs and illustrations, because photographs and illustrations give us so much information about what the author wants us to learn about in the book. So you can see the difference in the two hands. This is a photograph. It looks like an actual hand. This is an illustration. An illustration is a drawing. Nonfiction books can use either photographs or illustrations. In some nonfiction books, you might find a timeline. A timeline is a diagram that shows events in the order they happened. This is a timeline of the life of George Washington. So it tells different years that important events happened in George Washington's life. As we begin to look at our historical figures, we may see more timelines in the books we read about them. Now this is a caption. We've talked a little bit about that. A caption is the information under a photograph that tells more information about the picture. So make sure that when you're reading a nonfiction text that you don't forget to read the caption. It might give you some good information. This is a diagram. A diagram is a picture, and then you have different parts of the pictures labeled, so you know what things make up that picture. And of course, you can't forget the labels. You can see labels in a diagram. You could also see labels in just a regular picture. So if we were reading a book about sharks, you might see a label telling you the kind of shark that is in that picture. So the next text feature is a text box. This is a box that will give you information, a little bit more information about what you're reading. And the text box is going to be in a separate box on the page. You may also see a map. Maps help us to understand where some of the things that the author is talking about has taken place. There can be different kinds of maps in a nonfiction text. And then you might have a cutaway. A cutaway is where you have a diagram, but then you have it blown up a little bit bigger so you can see it in more details. And sometimes the author might use bullets to help them to list some of the different facts. Do you remember this from math? This is a graph. These are different kinds of graphs. And sometimes authors will put graphs in nonfiction text to help us understand. And then we have a sidebar. A sidebar is more information about a topic, and it's usually placed in a box next to or near the main body of the text. So this is your main body of the text. This is where you're going to get most of your information, but don't forget to read the information in this box. This is the sidebar, and you might miss out on something if you don't read the sidebar. So you can see there are many, many different text features. Now, as we are reading more nonfiction books this week, we will be looking for these text features. We will also be using these text features to help us find the information that we want and to help us understand what the author is trying to teach us.